Well, welcome back to the pod. My guest today is Mo Fathelbab. He is the founder and president of the International Facilitators Organization and Forum Resources Network, and co-founder of the Harvard Business School Alumni Forums. A best-selling author and global thought leader in peer learning and facilitation, Mo has worked with over 30,000 CEOs and entrepreneurs in over 30 countries, leading more than 2,500 retreats and programs. Wow. With decades of experience building peer groups and communities, Mo helps leaders foster trust, connection, and transformative dialogue. Welcome to the pod, Mo.
Dan, thank you. What a pleasure to be here with you.
Excellent. So let's jump right into it. You started an association for facilitators, and I want to understand what made you do this, because in the facilitator world, there is not a lot of these organizations. So walk us through the logic there.
Well, I think that's the first part of the answer is in the facilitator world, there's not a lot of these organizations. But the second thing is I'm a part of a wonderful community with the Young Presidents Organization's group of certified facilitators, certified forum facilitators, they call them. And it's just been an amazing journey being in this community for the last almost 30 years and learning and growing together. And they've become like family. So a couple of things. One is I wanted forums/peer groups to be much more widespread than just CEOs and the work that I've had the blessing to do for the last 30 plus years. And to do that, I needed a lot more facilitators. And two, I love this community of facilitators. And I thought, what better way to support this mission of having almost every human being in a forum than to support the facilitators that do that work.
So what do you love about facilitators?
You know, to work in this precious, vulnerable space is a really magical thing. I don't know about you, but I grew up whereby people were easily judging you or telling you what you should do with your life and getting into your business. And I don't know, that doesn't make for a very safe environment. And when I encountered Forum, I found something different. I found a safe space where you could be real and true and honest and explore without people having an interest in your outcome other than what's best for you.
So you talk about peer groups and forums. Can you describe to our audience the difference between the two?
They're one and the same. I think a lot of people just don't know what the word forum is.
Right.
But that's the word that you and I have encountered through this lovely opportunity with the Young Presidents Organization, Entrepreneurs Organization. But really, a forum is a peer group that meets on a regular basis in a confidential, structured, non-judgmental environment to help the members of the group grow and be the best versions of themselves, personally and professionally.
So both you and I know that in order for there to be a peer group and forum, or interchangeably, there has to be a level of safety. But sometimes, and we'll just call them forums going forward. Sometimes forums don't necessarily have the perfect chemistry.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's not the right person. Sometimes the group just doesn't blend. And I find that a lot of these peer group or peer associations don't really do a good job of ensuring there is a sense of belonging in those groups, and there is not really a science to bringing people together. Can you comment on that a little bit, and what makes the difference between a good peer group and a not so good peer group, and how do you make sure that you have a good peer group?
I mean, look, it's interesting. In an ecosystem like YPO, members have to meet a certain membership threshold. And then YPO says, on that basis, you're all peers and you're going to be in a group together in small groups of 6, 7, or 8 or 9 people. When we did this work with Harvard Business School alumni, just to be an HBS alumni does not make you a peer, because we had some folks who were CEOs of public companies and we had some that were freshly minted, MBAs. And they're both alumni, but they didn't really have a lot in common in terms of their socioeconomic status, their demographics, their age bracket, their family status, or anything. And so in that context, we had to do a very concerted effort to match people so that when they are in their group, they could look around the room and say, this is a group of peers from whom I could learn that I can also trust and be open with.
Yeah, I call that the qualifier test. I think it requires more than one qualification, more than one criterion in order to be able to be part of the group. I like to think about it in threes, so maybe we're all HBS alums. Okay, that's great. Maybe we're all the same age bracket. That's great. And maybe we're all entrepreneurs. And I find that there's three things in common, whether it's values, whether it's whatever else, demographics. I find that that creates a slightly better sense of belonging for the group because it's a little more relatable.
So then I want to just answer to that part of your question.
Sure.
How do you create that sense of belonging? And so, one of the things that I have loved about Forum is the realization that once you start to peel back the layers of the onion, the real stuff that we all deal with as human beings is pretty much, what do I say? All about family relationships. That is at the core of what really impacts all of us in one way, shape, or another. And having this experience, you start to see patterns. Here's how I treat people at work, and this is what I learned in my family of origin. And that's when we start to find some magic, when we could unlock some of our blind patterns that we've been exhibiting forever.
So you walk into a room, and what's the first thing you do?
First thing I do is say, welcome. I'm honored and grateful to be here. Let's do some introductions because I need to get to know all of you as well. And then I ask, what do you want to accomplish? Now, I already know that in my pre-work in advance, but I think it's really important that you listen to your fellow members, say what they want to accomplish, and that they hear what you want to accomplish, and that we have a common understanding of why we're there.
Okay, so what's the next thing you do?
Um, Talk about the safety and what that means to these folks. And obviously, confidentiality comes up. We have to be very, very clear on what confidentiality means. Often in social circles, it means, oh, I'm going to tell one person and tell them that it's confidential. And before you know it, it's not confidential at all. So we have to be very specific on what we mean. Everything said in the room stays in the room. And that means you can't tell your coworkers, you can't tell your spouse, you can't tell anyone. Because if you do, then my confidentiality is at risk.
I like to think of confidentiality as three different levels. Level one is anybody in the room can discuss it with anybody else, and the person who brought it up doesn't have to be present. The second one is the person who brought it up has to be present. And the third level is no one can ever repeat it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good way to think through it and to be transparent about it. Because if I don't think you're going to be talking about me when I leave the room, and
Mm,
I find out that you are, I may not be feeling as good about it next time.
right.
But if we're clear that it's okay, then that's a different story.
Do you have any exercises that you like to bring in that are kind of yours and like the Mo way? What's like a special thing you do?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I have a bunch that I really love. One of the most impactful ones I came up with because of 9/11. There was a brand new forum, and they asked me to do their retreat. And as the retreat was coming up, 9/11 happened. And they had an unusual request for me, which was, we want you to do something you have never done. So as I was thinking about life in the midst of this crisis, for the first time, I found myself pondering my own mortality and what that means. So I came up with this exercise exploring your mortality, where there's a discussion about what people believe in terms of the afterlife, in terms of what's going to happen, in terms of whatever their spiritual or religious beliefs are. But then there's a letter that each person writes because you just may not make it home. We don't know when we're going to go. And that letter is to be written to your oldest son or daughter on their wedding or graduation day or bar mitzvah or whatever milestone is coming up in case you're not there. And I'll tell you, that letter is incredibly powerful. It's incredibly moving. It moves people to make decisions, to reconnect with people that perhaps they had regretted not communicating with. And I've had a couple of cases where a member has passed away. And in one of those cases, I got an email from the moderator saying, "This is the only thing this 3-year-old boy is going to have from his father when he grows
Mhm.
up."
That's very moving. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
I
thank
um
you.
I want to talk about the groups that say we don't need a facilitator. We got a moderator. We are experts at difficult conversations. What's your message to these people?
Look, some groups can be incredibly effective and wonderful and do it without a moderator. And I think the only question is,
By
are
the way,
they
you're looking at a
honest?
moderator of two different forms. So I
Yeah. So the only question is it really the truth? And you find that out by doing a forum health survey and really to listen to what the group is saying. And if everybody's super happy and it's meaningful, great. Then maybe you don't need a moderator, facilitator. At the same time, this is our profession. If you decide you've been to the dentist 3 times, so now you could do your own dental surgery, maybe that's analogous to you've run a few meetings, so now you think you can facilitate your group to exactly what it needs. Maybe not.
But if you're facilitating, you often can't participate, which sucks.
Well, it does suck when you can't participate, and it does require a lot more of me because as a facilitator, my very first thing that I do is I'm also in the room. So I don't ask you to share something that I won't share. And to lead by example means I have to be a participant and to facilitate at the same time, and that is a lot.
So, according to Bayer, you've done hundreds, if not thousands, of retreats. How in the hell have you done so much?
Well, I started early. And in the beginning, I did it for free as part of my job when I was executive director of the Young Entrepreneurs Organization. It's now just the Entrepreneurs Organization. They got rid of the young, but
Well, they
they
have
had
to
a
keep you
max.
around.
That's right. So anyway, I started doing it for free as part of my job, and it became my favorite part of my job. And so from 91 to 97, I did hundreds of these things. And then in 97, I decided to make it my business and then just kept on doing them. But it's been just so rewarding. I don't know what else I would do that's as rewarding.
Let's shift gears to your association and your vision for the association. We spoke about 6 months ago, and you were still kind of working things out, still growing it. Um, let's, this podcast is for facilitators, for retreat leaders. Um, they say to themselves, "I'm a small business owner. I don't need Mo's association." What's the value proposition first, and then please walk us through the vision as well.
Well, I'm going to back up and just say this. If you look at the more than 20, 30,000 members of YPO and EO and Harvard Business School alumni that have found incredible value to being in a forum group, you have to ask yourself, am I on my own as smart as 8 people that are as smart, if not smarter than me, who have my back in this incredible environment where we get to really know each other and help each other over the course of the next 10, 20, 30 years? By the way, I'm in my forum since 1991. I can't tell you how much stuff this group has helped me with over the years. And so, one of the benefits that we provide our facilitators is the ability to belong to one of these groups. And I think that alone is worth its weight in gold. I wish I joined my group when I was in college, not in 1991, because I think it's just been profoundly impactful on my life. So that's one benefit. The other benefit that we have is we have educational programs so you could learn and brush up on your facilitation skills and learn new tools. We have an annual retreat. The next one's going to be in Virginia. The last one was in Park City. And of course, we have a directory where we list all our facilitators so that we can get them some work along the way.
So let's talk about the brass tacks. How much does it cost to join? What are the member benefits, and so on?
Yeah. So to join is roughly $990 a year. Or you could just get a listing in the directory for $300 a year or 350, something like that. So it's all cheap. And so the benefits 300, you get a listing in the directory. The 900 price point, then you get to be in a forum, you get to be in our town hall, you get to come to our retreats, and you get to be listed in the directory. And of course, you get preferential treatment to us booking you when we book large clients.
Got it. So let's talk about your vision now. 3 years from now, tell us about the association and where is it going to be? Where, you're a visionary, obviously. You've been in forums, you know the value of creating vivid vision, as some would call it. Um, tell us what's your plan?
Yeah, I mean, so we have a lot of exciting stuff happening. We just launched a program with Texas Health. We trained 8 of their facilitators because they want to use the peer learning process to infuse their important lessons for their teams because they believe adult learners learn best through peer learning. So that's happening. We're in conversations with Tulane and the College of Charleston to start forums for students because listen, the earlier you start, the more you're going to have this to support you throughout your life. And so we're just about to launch a couple of programs there. And along the way, we're still plugging away at getting more facilitators in our pipeline so we could really serve a much bigger community than we are right now. So in 3 years, I hope we have 300 facilitators, and I think that's conservative if we're at 46 right now, but I hope 300 by then and to really get them all working. I think that's the key is to have them be able to be doing this work so we could spread this gospel that we love so much.
Let's talk about the addressable market. How many facilitators do you think there are out there? How many retreat leaders do you think there are out there? Do you even have a sense of the size of the industry? Walk us through the numbers that you may have done research on.
So in the case of YPO and EO alone, there are 50,000 members. If you add Vistage, which is the for-profit
And I'm a member of
behemoth.
Vistage and
uh,
YPO for the record.
Okay, got it. So you've got the contrast. If you add Vistage, that's probably another 30, 40,000 members. I don't have their exact top line number. So already we are at about 100,000 CEO entrepreneur types who belong to these groups. Now, in YPO, as you know, they also have forums for the spouses and they also have forums for the YPO next generation, the young adults who are
And for the
children of
networks.
YPO and for the networks, you got that. I'm going to say we are easily at a couple 100,000 people who are at the top of their game who participate in these forums on a regular basis. That's what we know. I'll bet you there's another couple million out there that we just don't know. More and more, this is not so much a secret anymore. You know, my first book was Forum, The Secret Advantage of Successful Leaders because of, it was a play on the confidentiality and the fact that it's secret and it's only available to the O organizations. But more and more, I think it's coming online in all sorts of places, and it's just it's the way of the future. I think it's an antidote to the separation we get from social media and AI, and to really give people an opportunity to connect in person at a meaningful level is going to be more and more in demand.
Do you have a sense of how many facilitators there are out there?
I'm gonna guess 10,000. I don't know.
Okay.
What do you
And
think?
that's I think it depends on the class. I think there are retreat leaders and guides on the kind of more personal stuff. I think there are like, Hoffman process has like 30, for example. And then there's the more spiritual world and the workshopy world. Gottman Institute has certifications. So I think there's that. I mean, I would probably say there are finger to the wind, probably 100,000 facilitators or people who facilitate as part of a living. A lot of coaches that do also facilitation. So I would say it's quite large.
Yeah.
That's my take on it. And a lot of people just don't refer to them as facilitators than they are. It's like one of those things. I think that like sales, a lot of people do sales. It's not on their title. A lot of people facilitate. It's not on their title. Um,
I think you're dead on with the coaching piece. A lot of people don't even know what a facilitator is, but the coach is kind of the common
Yeah.
nomenclature, whether it's one-on-one or whether they're coaching a group. People just are comfortable with that word.
And I've observed through doing this podcast and in my work that a lot of coaches end up doing teamwork because they just that's a force multiplier if they're able to work not just with their principal but also with the principal's team.
Yeah. And that's part of the thinking we had when we got going with this business is there's a lot of coaches out there that can really do this work and do it well, but they don't even know about it.
Right, right. Um,
Yeah.
I want to talk about pricing and how you think facilitators should do pricing. It's a bit all over the place. I think YPO has like they try to give them guidance in order to price control. What if you're a new facilitator? How do you recommend somebody charge, and how do they think about that?
Well, first of all, I'll just speak from experience. When I was a new
Sure.
facilitator, I did hundreds for free, hundreds. And that is how I learned, and that's what I cut my teeth on. That was my MBA. That's how I got started. Today it depends on the market. It depends on, the clients. If you're doing this for students, you may not be able to charge anything. You may be able to charge $10 a kid for a 1 hour session, and you're not going to make much. But if you're doing it for CEOs, in the case of YPO, they just started price controls, as you mentioned, and they're pegging it as little as $1,400 for a half a day. But we don't work at those rates because we've just been doing this so long, and we're a little bit beyond that. So when YPO said, "Hey, will you opt into these prices?" I, I can't. Opportunity
Hmm.
cost is too large.
So speaking to the godfather of facilitation, how much do you charge?
So it depends, right? Because again, a corporate setting, 15,000 a day, a forum for you know people that don't have their own companies. Sometimes I'll give them a break and I'll go as low as six.
Okay,
So it just depends.
got it. Awesome. Um, I want to touch on talked about. Is there anything else? Is there any question that I should be asking you that I haven't asked you in terms of your background and some of the writing you've done? Um, I think for me, I really care about how to help people enter the facilitation world. So doing it for free, charging whatever, beta testing, getting out there. But doing biz dev is really hard. Do you have any suggestions of how to do biz dev once you are in the game?
Look, I don't know what works and what doesn't, but we've been doing social media, regularly for the
And you
last
got a podcast
five.
yourself?
And I have a podcast, and I host a podcast for SHRM, Society of Human Resource Management. And so, look, I think it's FaceTime. It's anything and everything you could do to remind people that you exist. At the end of the day, it still comes down to word of mouth. But
Yeah.
that's how I think of it.
100%. So, what questions should I ask you about facilitation or anything related to folks who are listening to this who are retreat leaders or want to be retreat leaders that you think uh, they would want to know, or something from your experience that you think our audience should know as we look to wrap up?
I think you asked me an important question about my favorite exercises, but I think beneath that question is why those exercises and what's important about an exercise that's meaningful, that's deep. And I just, David Bradford is one of my gurus, and he is from the Graduate School of Business at Stanford. He teaches a course known as Touchy Feely. And David Bradford, he has said the most eloquent sentence on vulnerability. And he says this: vulnerability is the currency of relationships. And without it, relationships remain superficial. And what I would say to the facilitators listening is, if there's one piece of feedback that I get from my clients directly, is that my vulnerability and leading with my vulnerability makes it so that it's easy for them to do the same. And
Mm,
so pretty quickly, you ask me, how do we get people to connect? How do we get them to really value the connection and see each other as human beings? And vulnerability is it. Because, if you don't know someone, it's easy to judge them. If you get curious and you learn about them and you learn and understand their backstory and why they do what they do, you're far less likely to judge them, and you're more likely to accept them. You're more likely to see a piece of yourself in them. and to see them as a human being.
One of my favorite things that I do is, and I'm working on this every day, is whenever I speak to someone and I feel like myself kind of like judging or removing myself from the conversation, I look at them and I think, this is another human being, and I have love for them. And I just look at somebody and I'm like thinking that, and like, this is another person. They have their own thing going on, and I love this person. And I find that helps me kind of ground myself in the conversation.
It's beautiful.
On the Thank you. On the topic of friendships, I like to think about friendships as an exchange of secrets, and that touches on your
Ah.
vulnerability. So, I offer a secret, and then you kind of offer a secret, and we get vulnerable that way. It is a little awkward to start very deep, and I'm also guilty of doing that. Like, hello, I have trauma from childhood, and I feel like I belong nowhere. How are you?
Right, right, yeah. Yeah. Look, I think one of the things that's important that you asked me is setting the intention, right? So in the beginning of these meetings, we're clear about setting the intention. And, I may not have done this as well early on, but I've had some people, like, we start an exercise and somebody goes, "Why are we doing this? I thought we're here to grow our businesses." So stuff like that can happen if you're not careful with how you navigate these conversations.
So, Mo, as we wrap up, where can people find you?
MoFathelbab.com for my keynote speaking website. I'm on LinkedIn, Mo Fathelbab. We have two websites, forumresourcesnetwork.com and International Facilitators Organization.com.
Awesome. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Dan. Great to be with you.